One of the people I would invite is a person called Adi Seidman, and he's the CEO of a company called Oddcast. And they create 3D avatars. They can do this from a real person, or they can create virtual people. And they've been doing this for over 10 years, and there's been many companies in this field that have done it, and I believe they're one of the most sophisticated at doing this, and one of the most successful. And they've worked with people like Nokia and Disney and Fox, and they can even take a still image of somebody and embed it in an existing film script, so you can appear in the movie. And I think they've got such an exciting piece of technology. And considering what we do at Creative Virtual, as being the brains behind these avatars, is kind of like a perfect, kind of fit for us. I think, secondly, probably Steve Jobs. I guess many people might mention him, but I think that what's really interesting today is the devices that they're creating, the mobile devices in particular. I mean, this is the way that we are now interacting with the internet and with each other through kind of social networking and the like. And I believe that the convergence of different technologies, mobile devices, robotics, even biology, and computer software, is a really interesting area. And I think Apple are going to play a real key role in that. And I think the third person I'd like to see is a virtual person. Which I think will be very interesting. A virtual person that people can kind of interact with and ask questions to show the power of what's being delivered today through virtual assistants, or we call them V-persons. I think a good panel topic would be our companies are looking to use virtual people and real people together. I think one of the big debates that we see with the companies that we work with is how to present the fact that you're dealing with a virtual person and then you hand over to a real person. Those lines are quite blurred in a lot of areas today, and I think some discussion around that, and whether they should be blurred or whether you should just let the person interact how they want to interact, and that's it. That's a successful kind of conversation. So I'm Chris Ezekiel. I'm the CEO of Creative Virtual, and we create virtual people. And what I mean by that is the brains of the virtual person. So we're able to not only understand the different ways that someone might ask the same question, we're also able to understand the context. So an example is that you might say to one of our virtual assistants online, I want to upgrade my phone. Then that virtual person on the internet, say doing a customer service job as a virtual person, would then come back and ask you follow-on questions before giving you an answer. So it's really mimicking the way people interact with each other. So we're kind of simulating that conversation that you might have with the call centre, but completely through a virtual assistant. In the future, technologies will be used like this, like the software that we use. I think there's probably a couple of things I'd like to point to. One is that last year saw the first marriage done by a robot in Japan, of course, which I think is very interesting. And at about the same time, some US scientists announced that they had actually created the first form of artificial life, which was a living cell but controlled completely by synthetic DNA. So I think that, to me, it's the convergence between the software, which is the ability to kind of understand what people are saying and to keep the context of the conversation, which is the bit that we do, with the robotics and possibly, in the future, biology as well. The neuron kind of networks, based on artificial life forms. It's some way off, but there's lots of research being done in those areas. And I think actually in parallel with that, we've got people being augmented by technology, chips being inserted into humans. So I think that computers are going to get more human-like and humans are going to get more computer-like. Maybe the boundaries will stay, pretty hard for a long time, maybe forever. but I suspect not. I think those two things will come together more and more and kind of blur into each other, merge into each other. And, you know, we just won't know one day. I mean, we even see that today, really, you know, whether you're talking to a computer or a real person. I think that increasingly, and increasingly in the physical form, we'll see that merging together a bit more. Current case studies, it's kind of really interesting. I think that, you know, when we look at the world today, we see everybody interacting with each other through the internet. Obviously, social networking is massive today. A couple of ones that I'd like to point out is, you know, we have Lisa as a virtual character on the virtual assistant on the National Rail Inquiries website that we developed with one of our partners called the Virtual Zone. And that one is planning a journey for you. Lisa will plan the journey completely for you. Not just plan the journey, but tell you about disruptions on the line and enable you to set alerts for your journey. Plan your return journey completely through an interactive virtual experience, completely through understanding natural language and the way kind of people interact with each other. I think that some of the things that the Singularity University are doing in Silicon Valley is really quite interesting. You know, the merging of minds and computers. I think that's really interesting. So another case study that again we were involved in, but there was other companies involved in it too, was a project we'd done a few years ago for the BBC, and it was one of these alternative reality games, and it was aimed at teenage girls. At the time, it was where the BBC were trying to get more girls of that age group playing games online. So that's about 4 or 5 years ago that we'd done this. And the idea was that it was called Jamie Kane. And the idea was that this was a pop star that had gone missing, presumed dead, and you had to track him down. And the BBC created lots of resources, including a couple of CDs, a couple of albums for this guy, Jamie Kane. And they done some spoof websites. And they also had some blogs that you could kind of interact with. I think the game lasted for about 15 days, and it was completely immersive. I mean, you know, it was incredible the reaction to it and the way people interacted with it.